I'm David Kennedy, and you're watching Business Arena, the one-stop shop for news on the global economy with a focus on Central and Eastern Europe. Now, first up, today's headlines. The over 50s are setting up businesses faster than other age groups in Poland, especially women. And Ukraine aims to revamp its privatization process. The over 50s are more likely to set up on their own than other groups, and 40% of all new businesses in that age group were created by women. Here's more.
Poles aged 50 and above don't shy away from becoming their own boss. A recent study by the Polish Economic Institute shows. The study highlighted that 23% of individuals within the working age bracket pursue self-employment, which is 5 percentage points above the European Union average. Titled Entrepreneurs 50 Plus, the report underscores that annually, individuals over 50 establish approximately 35,000 companies, constituting about 12% of all sole proprietorships. Most sole proprietors aged 50 plus or older are individuals who are yet to reach the retirement age, which in Poland stands at 60 for women and 65 for men. Individuals above the retirement threshold, meanwhile, account for more than a quarter of the total. While PEI data indicates that men below the retirement age represent over 2/3 of the total, this pattern reverses among sole proprietors above the retirement age, with women comprising 63% of the total. The biggest share, or approximately 21% of sole proprietorships in Poland, are active in the retail sector, particularly favoured by women, making up 28% of all company owners in this domain. Construction came close second with 20% of the share, and was the most popular choice for nearly a third of all men solo entrepreneurs aged 50 plus. 71% of respondents cited the pursuit of independence as the primary motivator behind becoming their own boss. Following closely at 69% is the aspiration to use accumulated experience and expertise behind setting up their own business. Finally, 63% chose self-employment after losing their full-time job.
And to suggest and to discuss who is setting up their own businesses and why, I'm joined by Professor Krzysztof Zęba of Gdańsk University of Technology. Professor, thank you very much for joining me once again.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Now, let's maybe start with this interesting information that the over 50s are the ones who are setting up some 35,000 new companies. Now, why particularly that age group? Are they maybe less likely to find a job if they're laid off and they decide to go into business by themselves?
This is complicated, of course. This is complicated. But the idea of relatively older people starting their own business is actually quite well known in economics. It already has its label. We call them silver entrepreneurs. I believe it is very important that we differentiate between people who are actually retired or they reached the retirement age and they set up their businesses, and those who are simply plus 50, so they're above 50 but not retired yet. These are two quite different groups, and you can see it very clearly when you, for instance, look at the gender composition. Because starting own business is, generally speaking, in the general population, it is more popular with men. And this is what we see when you analyze those entrepreneurs that are over 50 but not retired yet. But when you look at retired people, people who are in the retirement age, we see the domination of women. And that would probably clearly suggest that financial motivation may be very important. Because the rules of retirement that we have now in Poland are not that good for women. I mean, they have lower pension and they may feel like earning more money.
Right, and this isn't a bad thing, is it? Of course, we're living longer, and pensions have to last longer, and they're not that high, the pensions here, especially the cumulative effect of savings over 40 years, which you need to retire comfortably. Not many people have high enough a pension to feel comfortable, do they?
Of course. I mean, the system that we used to have, it dates back to the times of Bismarck. And at that time, the expected lifespan was so short that, statistically speaking, you were unlikely to live until your retirement. Nowadays, it's totally different. I mean, if you are a woman, you retire at the age of 60, you will most likely live for next 20-something years, like 24 years, for instance. And if you graduated from the university, started working at 25, retired at 60, so actually you accumulated money for your retirement for 35 years. And this is money that you need to live by for the next quarter of century. That's a very long time, actually. If you take into account that we accumulate like 20% of our salary, then it is quite obvious that your pension cannot actually be bigger than 30% of your last salary. That's a huge decrease when you decide to retire. And people who reach the retirement age, they are not so eagerly employed by businesses. Hence, they are pushed into entrepreneurship. They are pushed into self-employment.
Now, many of these businesses are successful. But the issue, actually, when you have a successful business is then succession. There are a lot of companies that were founded by people who kind of discovered the capitalist economy in the late 80s, the beginning of the 90s, who are now coming up for retirement, and their kids don't want to go into the businesses. Is that becoming an even bigger problem?
Yes, of course. This is a problem that is actually well known in Poland, well diagnosed. The major problem, I guess, here is a lack of awareness. I mean, Polish business owners, they don't know how to solve the problem of succession, especially if their kids don't want to take over, and they don't really know whom to contact, whom to talk to, who can advise them what to do. So there is a lot to be done here in this segment. That's for sure.
And who can advise them? Banks are setting up their advisory services. Is the idea to sell out and take that profit and give it to the kids?
Well, it is possible. Generally speaking, we've got a very dynamic institution called Family Business Institute. And they offer a lot of trainings, a lot of guidance, a lot of advisory services. So yes, of course, you can turn to banks. They can be kind of advisors here, but I would place my money on experts that are not that, I would say, financially oriented as banks are.
Now, I was talking to a leadership trainer just before we came on, who's pinpointed the issue of people not actually training up staff to take over, even if it's not a family business? Should we be concentrating on training our entrepreneurs?
You know, this is emotionally difficult. I mean, many entrepreneurs, especially those who successfully develop their business, they treat those businesses like kids, like their own family. And the idea of giving it into hands of someone from outside of the family is very problematic, especially that in Polish society, the level of trust outside family is dramatically low. Therefore, it is hard for entrepreneurs to accept this scenario. It will not be passed, I mean, my company will not be passed to my children, grandchildren. It wouldn't stay in the family. It would go into some, stranger's hands.
Right, okay.
Very hard.
Very hard. A question of trust. Well, Professor Krzysztof Zęba, we always can trust you to give us some very good analysis for Business Arena. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And next up is our quick fire round with stories including satellites,